evening. You watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Neha Khanna. Our big focus tonight, Delhi's killer air. It's no longer something we just read about in the newspapers or hear experts talk about. It's now everyday dinner table conversation here in Delhi. That's because we're all affected by it. Delhi is quite literally gasping for air. And for those with respiratory illnesses, it's an absolute nightmare. So just how bad is it? Consider this. According to one study, Delhi's air pollution levels have gone so high in the last 10 days that just breathing the toxic air of Delhi right now is like smoking 14 cigarettes a day. So the question is, what is the government doing about it? Well, today Delhi's Health Minister Satyendra Jain came up with a rather unique proposal. He says the government is going to install air purifiers and mist fountains at major intersections in the city. Take a look at this story.
India Gate hazed out with pollution at alarming levels in the capital. However, the Delhi government, which has failed to implement its promises of vacuuming road dust or adding more buses, now says it will install air purifiers.
दिल्ली के अंदर एयर पोल्यूशन जो है काफ़ी ज़्यादा है। 5 जगह पर पायलट प्रोजेक्ट के रूप में वो अपने एयर प्यूरिफायर्स लगाएंगे, जिससे कि उन चौराहे के ऊपर देखते हैं कि कितना पोल्यूशन कम हो सकता है।
Delhi's air quality has been classified as very poor by the Central Pollution Control Board for the past 2 days and inching closer to the poorest severe category. Pollution levels, particularly of PM 2.5, which are fine particles, have spiked, making it very unhealthy, especially for active children, seniors and those with breathing problems. One cause of this, firecrackers. School children, one of the most vulnerable to the lethal smoke from firecrackers, are doing their bit.
People are having lung cancers and asthma because people burst a lot of firecrackers.
The children are saying their parents not to buy crackers. The sales are down up to 50%.
Given the scale of the problem, there's little buzz around the health warnings. A central government ad buried in today's papers doesn't even warn users that some firecrackers emit cancer-causing fumes.
बंद नहीं किया, एक बच्चों को शौक के लिए लेके आया, लेकिन बंद नहीं किया, कम किया, बहुत ज़्यादा कम किया।
For the past 10 days, pollution levels have fluctuated between poor, very poor and in fact severe in parts of the city. One of the big reasons for that is in fact the heavy traffic density and traffic jams across the national capital as we lead up to Diwali. The worry is, with the festival approaching, are pollution levels set to rise even further? In New Delhi, with N. Ravi, Siddharth Pandey for NDTV.
All right, so just how bad is the situation and what can we do to address this growing crisis here in the national capital? To talk about that, we are joined here by a special panel. Here with me in the studio, Arvind Gupta, National Head, IT Cell of the BJP. We're joined by Anumita Roy Chaudhary, Executive Director, Center for Science and Environment, Annie Koshi, Principal of St. Mary's School. Also joining us is Dr. Neera Jain, Senior Consultant, Department of Chest Medicine, Gangaram Hospital. We'll also be joined in just a bit by Atishi Marlena, spokesperson for the Aam Aadmi Party. All right, before we get the netas in, Ms. Chaudhary, if I could begin with you. We heard what Delhi's Health Minister had to say today. Now, mist fountains and air purifiers, while it may be a well-intentioned move on part of the government, are we really going to tackle Delhi's humongous pollution problem with 5 giant air purifiers? I mean, isn't this too ad hoc an approach?
Absolutely. You know, and especially when we have heard nothing so far on what the winter package of action is going to be on winter pollution, saying that you're going to install air purifier is giving you the signal and the message that the pollution activities can continue as usual, and then we are only going to do this cosmetic gesture, which is not going to make any difference. First of all, where is the hard data and evidence to show that these things work? And they have tried it already in 2010 when this kind of air purifier was installed in Connaught Place in Delhi by NDMC. And we had seen no data to substantiate the claim that that can make a difference to Delhi's air, where it's outdoor, it's not confined air, wind is blowing all the time, and the pollution sources are galloping.
Right.
So clearly, therefore, we have to talk about real action now.
Real action.
Absolutely. The money that you're spending on this, with that you could have actually replaced each and every chulha that burns biomass in Delhi's poor household today.
Right.
And that would have given you much bigger bang
Right.
for the money you are spending.
Now, we need to put a lot of these questions to Atishi, and we're hoping that she'll join us soon. But before that, let me go across to Mr. Arvind Gupta of the BJP. Mr. Gupta, we will address a lot of other issues that Delhi is facing currently, but let's look at the politics of it. Problem is, we see endless buck passing and turf wars between the Aam Aadmi Party government and the centre. The question Delhiites are asking is, why can't the two just come together to tackle what is a very big problem for Delhiites? For example, shouldn't the centre be stepping in and cracking down on those farm fires and burning of crop stubble that we see in Punjab and Haryana, but we don't see the political will?
No, I think, with what we are seeing in Delhi, and as a person who lives in Delhi and breathes this toxic air, are absolutely ad hoc, uncoordinated, spur of the moment thoughts. There has been no 365 days of the year sustainable plans that the government has presented. Last year or this year, early this year, we saw two variants of odd even. They failed miserably. The NGT recently said that they didn't have any impact on pollution. This massive air purifiers have failed once in 2010, they will fail again, because there is no intention to really solve this problem on a year-long basis. Right. Many people have actually questioned the Chief Minister of Delhi, who's hardly ever in Delhi, to present a winter plan.
Right.
And this is not today. This has been going on. This talk has been going on
Right.
for 2 months, because
Okay,
we have been suffering about.
Right. We'll talk about odd even also in some detail a little later on the show. And fine, you're well within your rights to raise questions about what the Aam Aadmi Party government is doing or not doing, including the Chief Minister. But again, the question is, the BJP can't wash its hands off it. The centre has to work in tandem with the government. Like you evaded my question.
No,
what
and
about
I will
the
answer
farm
that
fires
question.
in Punjab and Haryana? Why is the centre not stepping in?
So there is a lot of, the couple of things that the centre is already working on, and then let me explain that to you. The vehicular passage, the truck passage that comes into Delhi, which is not destined for Delhi, should be made to go around Delhi. So all those eastern periphery expressway, the western periphery expressway, they've all been actually actioned, and a few pieces of them are remaining, but most of them have been actioned. But still,
but we don't see the results, do we?
No, and I'll come to that, because we don't want to implement and enforce trucks which are not destined to Delhi should not enter Delhi.
Right.
Believe me, that is a bigger problem. When odd even was happening, I said this.
Right.
Truck pollution is a much higher cause of pollution than vehicular pollution in Delhi.
All right.
The four-wheeler pollution.
All right. Let me take that to Atishi Marlena of the Aam Aadmi Party, who now joins us on the show. Atishi, you may have heard what Arvind Gupta there said, that the Chief Minister is almost never around. We don't really have a winter plan from the government. But really, my pointed question to you is, your health minister today was talking about installing giant air purifiers and mist fountains to tackle Delhi's humongous air pollution problem. I don't know if anyone's convinced that we can solve Delhi's pollution problem this way.
First of all, I think one has to look, I agree with Arvind that you need a comprehensive plan, and a comprehensive plan involves many solutions. It involves solutions for traffic, it involves solutions for pollution related to construction, for pollution related to dust, for a lot of the pollution that is even coming from the burning of crops. So what was presented today, the air purifiers, is a pilot project designed by some of the leading scientists in our country. And therefore, what we are trying to do is, and that is precisely what we did with odd even last year, is that when you have a difficult problem, you need to find out of the box and innovative solutions. Did odd even work? Did it not work? I think the jury is still out on that. But the fact of the matter is, at least the government had the political will to try what was a difficult solution. Number one. Number two,
you mentioned odd even. If I could just add one question, Atishi. If I could just add one question about odd even, and then you can answer, because it's something that even Mr. Gupta raised. Now, when it was introduced for the first time by your government in January, I think most people welcomed it. It did considerably reduce at least the traffic congestion on our roads, and I think we all loved it for that. But there have been enough studies to indicate that it did not do much to bring down Delhi's pollution levels, and your government is talking about bringing it back. So again, the question is it going to work?
First of all, let's be clear that odd even by itself is not going to work, and I think all of us need to be aware of that. Something like odd even will always be a short-term solution. But to solve a problem of this nature, one needs short-term and long-term solutions. And for long-term solutions, the things that our government is looking at, number one, increasing the number of buses on the road. We recently, in fact, bought 100 new buses for DTC, because finally it is public transport and not steps like odd even which are actually going to reduce the amount of pollution on the road. Number two, construction sites. They have constituted, dust from construction sites and debris constitutes an important source of pollution in Delhi. In the past year, we have had more than 1,000 raids and challans where we have got our SDMs, our district magistrates, to go to construction sites and challan any builders who are not adhering to the norms that are set by the government. Number three, a large part of the pollution in Delhi in the winters comes from burning of crops. In Haryana, in Punjab, even NASA images have shown that because of the large amount of burning of crops, Delhi gets affected at this point of time in the year. And for that, we have initiated a dialogue with the two states concerned, and I would like to appeal to the central government. And Mr. Arvind Gupta is here as a representative
Let's get a
of
quick
the ruling
response
party.
to that, Atishi, because I need to get to my other panelists
from
too.
the central government.
Let's get a quick response. Mr. Gupta, before I go across to my other panelists, you heard Atishi there. She listed the number of steps that the Delhi government, she says, has taken. Then she is saying that we are reaching out to the centre, help us out in Punjab and Haryana.
See, the Delhi, the central government has, in the first phase of odd even itself, I think everybody cooperated, including the police, which the Chief Minister always complains comes under the LG and the Delhi government, central government. So, I think when it comes to pollution, we all...
Atishi, I have put that question to Mr. Gupta. Let him finish.
Yeah, so it is, see, again, there is a lot of education that is required for the farmers also, for them to understand. It's a question of livelihood for them.
It is, but Mr. Gupta, the counter view to that is that there isn't enough political will, because you have elections in Punjab that are around the corner, and nobody wants to take the risk of cracking down on something that farmers are doing.
It is both ways. It applies to Aam Aadmi Party also, because they have not...
Equally to all political parties.
So it applies to everybody, but I think there is for that, all of us have to work together to educate the farmers really. See, that, burning this is a short-term measure. It's it actually impacts the environment, but their issue is livelihood. So it is there has to be a mechanism to compensate on that before and look at a bigger picture.
But are we really looking for those solutions?
I think everybody is. The fact that we are talking about it, we are. But there is one very important point. I think she talked about buses, for example. The public transport. I think the AAP government is actually falling behind on this. I mean, they are giving this 100 numbers, which is, they have reduced the buses from 5545 to 4421. I mean, this is numbers from their own website. They've actually reduced the number of buses on Delhi's roads. And they're trying to say incremental 100 new buses have to be bought. I think there is...
We want to focus on the challenge of pollution. We don't want this to degenerate into a political tutu-meme. I'll come back to you. You can then answer some of those points of criticism that have been made by Mr. Gupta. But let me bring in Ms. Annie Koshi at this stage. Ma'am, school children in recent years have been at the forefront of most of the major anti-cracker campaigns, for example, that we have seen. And while a lot of these campaigns have no doubt helped in generating a lot of awareness, the question is, have they really helped in bringing down the levels of air pollution that we have in cities like Delhi? The question is, are the adults really listening? What has your experience been?
See, in schools, we do sort of get our children to sort of mobilize the Say No to Crackers campaign, and it's just not say no to crackers, walking to school, many of the other environmental awareness, because of course Diwali comes around, everybody talks about crackers, everybody talks about pollution, but I think schools sort of do a long term environmental awareness and pollution causing things. But all said and done, I think while children stand up and say no in school, I think when they go home and it's Diwali, then they think, acha chalo,
it's all forgotten.
Ek chota sa kar le, ek ladi kar le kind of thing. I think they're kids after all.
Right.
I'm really wondering, when I'm listening to the political parties talking, why don't they just stop the sale of crackers?
That was my next question.
I would have thought that would be it. Why are you getting kids to say no? I mean, remove
would you say it's
them.
A no-brainer?
Stop tempting them. I mean, we talk about many things, But action is, I think, what we don't see. and
Right.
that's the
We'll take
sad
that to the
part.
political
Yes, I
panel.
think.
But Ms. Chaudhary, if I could quickly come to you before I go across to Dr. Jain, that was going to be my next question. Has the time come now to impose a complete ban on crackers? In general, bans may not be the solution to any problem. But we seem to be in a desperate situation right now as far as pollution is concerned. Therefore, is it time for some desperate measures?
Absolutely. This is really the time for emergency action. And if you see the global best practice, then during the smoggy days and the kind of pollution levels that you see now in Delhi, you will not be permitted to burn firecrackers either in Beijing or in Paris or in London. Now, therefore, we really need those measures very quickly. Government can immediately work with their licensing policy. If they can at least roll out the roadmap to restrict licenses and enforce that very strictly, that itself is going to give you enormous benefit.
Right.
There are already Supreme Court guidelines on when can you burn, where you cannot burn, and also regarding the chemical composition of the crackers. But none of that has been implemented on the ground that festival is a sentimental issue.
Right.
But here we have to keep in mind the fact that when people are dying, falling ill, and the kind of deadly
Perhaps
diseases
religious
we're
sentiments
talking
need to
about.
be kept aside
Yes.
when you're dealing with a crisis of this nature. Before I put that to both Atishi and Mr. Gupta, I need to go across to Dr. Neera Jain, who's been listening in very patiently. Dr. Jain, let's have the medical perspective from you. I think it's already very well established that this is a major health crisis now. But share your experience with us. Just how bad is the situation for people living in the National Capital Region currently, especially for those who are already perhaps suffering from respiratory illnesses like asthma and bronchitis? I mean, would you call it a health emergency?
Good evening to everyone. I just feel, I feel sad. I think it's very tragic. Here we are sitting and talking about something that we think has started only today. I can go back 10 years and we say the same thing at the same time of the year every year. Why is it that when we have all the data and the information and we know the major sources of pollution, why are we more interested in pushing the blame on one party or the other party or one organization? You know, as somebody who sees the people who bear the brunt of this menace, I just feel that we all need to sit down and plan in advance. Why do we wait for Diwali to start talking about these things?
Absolutely.
You know, it is going to happen every year. It is going to happen every year. And believe me, you talk about legislation against firecrackers, there should have been legislation against 10 other things that cause pollution. We haven't been able to enforce that yet.
Right.
I mean, I think this is a very knee-jerk reaction that we say, okay, let's ban firecrackers, you know, and we've done our bit for pollution. We've done nothing. Trust me, banning firecrackers is not going to make any difference to what the people of the city go through.
Right. And it's an
You want a
absolute
solution
nightmare.
to firecrackers? Don't ban firecrackers. You know what? Every organization, every area should have just a licensed fire display, which should be only aerial, and there should be no ground firecrackers allowed. That's the way the world does it.
That's interesting, Dr.
You know,
Jain. It doesn't
you can
really
still
support a
celebrate your
total
festival.
ban. Right. And of course, we'll have to also bear in mind
I
that
think
it's not... Right. Go ahead, Dr. Jain.
No,
Finish your point.
I just feel that, you know, we are ignoring that, you know, our health is being affected forever. You know, as each year is passing, the lungs of patients are getting affected permanently, and people's life quality has gone
Right.
completely.
It
And,
is
you know,
a
here
very,
we are
very
still
scary
talking
scenario.
as if we are in
because-
the infancy of this problem.
Right. And
I-
as we
I
mentioned at
just
the
feel
start
that
of this
it
show,
is time we moved
one
on.
study seems to suggest that right now breathing the air of Delhi is the same as smoking 14 cigarettes a day. Now that's an absolute nightmare. All right, so as Dr. Jain mentioned there, that we need a whole host of measures. We need a comprehensive approach to this. Let's quickly bring in our audience here who has some questions for our panelists. Go ahead. Who would like to ask a question to the panel? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to ask that there are plans, like the government has said, there is odd even plan. There is a car-free day. But what about those industries located on the Yamuna bank? What about them? They are also polluting, and major contribution is theirs only. And what about the people living nearby them? Their life expectancy is actually decreasing, if you'll see.
All right, let's take a couple of other quick questions and comments and then we'll put them to the panel. Yes, go ahead.
My question is that the people of Delhi is very rich, I think, or they are using very costly atom bomb. And now on the occasion of Diwali, my question for Aam Aadmi Party: are you doing something for awareness for the people of Delhi?
Okay, let's put that to Atishi. Atishi, you heard those audience questions there. Odd Even was publicized like perhaps no other campaign in the recent past here in the national capital. Young people here saying, is the Aam Aadmi Party doing enough ahead of Diwali to tackle the problem of pollution, especially vis-a-vis firecrackers?
See, I think there's two questions when we are looking at something like pollution. One is in terms of policy and regulation, second is in terms of awareness. And I think we have talked a lot so far about the kind of policies governments are introducing. But I think on firecrackers, I think it's the best example of how awareness has made a difference. And not as a politician, but as a resident of this city, I know the fact that the locality I've been living in for 20 years now, firecrackers have drastically gone down. And as Annie has said, I think that's largely due to the fact because of young people, of students who have gone to their families and said, no, we don't want crackers.
Right.
So this year, like all other years, we have really pushed that campaign in all schools, government schools, private schools. There have been rallies all over the town today itself, yesterday and today itself.
But that's more a private
asking
initiative,
children
Atishi.
to reach out
the
to
question
people
being
in the
asked
locality
is,
saying
what
that
does
we
the
say no to
government do?
crackers. No, that's not a private initiative. We are running it in more than 1,000 government schools all over the city. So that's not a private initiative, but a government initiated enterprise where we are asking children from our schools to run this campaign, to reach out to their families, to their community. Because after all, an awareness campaign of people's personal choices have to be made in their own family spaces, have to be made in their community spaces.
Right. Okay, I need to
be
take
embarrassed to light a
closing
firecracker.
comments from everyone, Atishi, because we are running out of time. Annie, Koshi, if I could come to you. One question that comes to mind is pollution really a big enough issue for our netas, for our political class? Do they really take it seriously enough? Are they as alarmed as we are? Some would say it's not an election issue, it's not a vote catcher. Maybe they're not half as concerned as we are. What's your take?
Well, I mean, talking as a principal, talking from the view of students, I really do think that politicians are really not bothered about children and their health and their lung capacity or the health of their lungs, and if that was so, there would have been much more done for our children.
All right, 20 seconds, ma'am. What are you think, according to you, one or two very specific measures that the government needs to take urgently to tackle this growing crisis? Very quickly.
For the fireworks? Overall.
Overall.
We immediately need the time-bound action plan from the government that is monitorable and enforced, and which has to demonstrate that it is reducing the air of Delhi. And it has to be a source-wise action plan: vehicles, industry, power plant, waste burning, construction.
Right.
And with that, it has to be and government will have to be made accountable for implementation, for meeting the air quality targets.
It has to be a comprehensive approach. Mr. Gupta, last word to you, 20 seconds. Again, without getting into any tutu meme with the Aam Aadmi Party, how do you think we need to address this?
See, climate change is one of the biggest priority of the Modi government. We have actually agreed on the Paris Agreement.
Right.
Pollution is a major concern. There is no doubt about that. Whether it's clean energy, clean tech, everybody is working towards that.
Right.
But on the contrary, I totally, we are totally against festival shamming, naming Hindu festivals, saying this is the cause of pollution. Only one day of the year is not going to make the difference. We have to have a sustainable 365 days plan. And as you know, I have been saying that, I have written about it. It has to be against all the sources of pollution, not just one pollution.
All right, we've completely run out of time. I'd like to thank all our panelists for joining us and for talking to us about what is a very, very important issue for all of us living here in the national capital. We certainly hope the government will deal with this urgently and take some drastic measures, because that's what really the situation seems to demand. Here's hoping that everyone has a safe Diwali, and of course we also hope that more and more people are going to say no to firecrackers this time round, because Delhi really is struggling to breathe. That's it from us then. Thanks for watching.